Lucy has been out for quite a while at this point, so I think now is as good a time as any to talk about how good Lucy actually is in retrospective. So first I'm going to talk about her performance in Tower, then her performance within Whimpering Wastes, followed by her value in Matrix, and then finally we're gonna see if I was right about her or not. Starting of course with her performance in the Tower of Adversity. And honestly, while Lucy's damage is going to be okay and it's going to be fine for keeping you up to date with the content, there is a lot of frustration surrounding this character that I have quite some issues with. First of all, Rebecca. Rebecca in a vacuum actually feels pretty decent to play. I don't really have much of an issue with Rebecca as a character. However, Lucy has some quirks that make Rebecca harder to use. The main thing being Lucy's ridiculous energy needs. If you build 125 ER on your Lucy, there's still going to be moments where you simply do not have your ultimate. So Lucy is very reliant on you not whiffing any of your attacks, and Rebecca's Forte Heavy attack has a pretty long animation that doesn't stagnate enemies, which means, guess what? There's a pretty good chance that you can miss that attack. Now this isn't the end of the world in a vacuum, because if it's an issue with Rebecca's energy, building more ER on her is pretty much the play. However, because Lucy already has pretty high requirements, you kinda need to hit the Forte Heavy attack on Rebecca, because expecting any more ER on your Lucy than you should already have is getting a little ridiculous. But that's not even the biggest issue I have with playing Lucy. I also find Lucy extraordinarily annoying to play against mobile enemies, and her Forte generation is so ridiculously exact that if you miss even a single attack, your rotation gets really screwed. Lucy's combo is based around using her basic attacks to generate Forte, and then using that Forte. And as you can expect, Kuro has a dev-intended combo to reach max Forte. However, this combo doesn't have any sort of playing room. So if you need to dodge in the middle of your combo, or if you straight up whiff like 1 or 2 hits, you're not gonna get enough Forte. And guess what? The first basic attack in her basic attack string also by far generates the least amount of Forte, which means that, guess what? It's gonna take you a little bit of time to actually get that missing Forte. And if it adds up enough, there's a pretty good chance your Rebecca outro just might run out. And because the Liberation is the literal last thing you do in Lucy's rotation, that's quite a significant loss in damage. It's also really annoying that when you use a Toon Break skill, your combo also gets interrupted, which is really annoying. A very large amount of Rebecca's damage output is gonna come from her hack damage, which is triggered when you use a Toon Break skill. So, if you have a character who really wants to Toon Break as soon as possible, but Toon Breaking completely interrupts their combo and makes them waste time, you end up with a really clunky Toon Break timer, which is really annoying. So while performance-wise Lucy is doing fine, I really have issues with actually trying to play her. And that brings us to Whimpering Wastes. A lot of these issues are funnily enough not here, because almost all of the dodging issues or simply not hitting Rebecca's Forte Heavy aren't really factors in Whimpering Wastes. So what we're left with is literally every single other issue this character has, which has a very big impact in Whimpering Wastes. First of all, let's start with something that isn't exactly Lucy's fault, which is that Toon Hack is essentially a reskin of Toon Rupture, which means that its damage scales on the enemy's class, which means because you're not fighting any bosses, you're gonna get a big ol' damage decrease from that, which mainly affects Rebecca. But for the other thing that really hampers Lucy in this mode, yeah, guess what? Almost all of her damage is split into like 2 seconds, which is one of the worst things you could hear for Whimpering Wastes. Here's what the average Lucy rotation is gonna look like. You're gonna play your Mornia, you're gonna do her rotation, and absolutely nothing is going to die. You are going to swap into Rebecca, nothing is going to die from her basic attacks, you're gonna use her Forte Heavy, which groups up enemies and then maybe kills a wave, and then you're gonna use her ultimate, which probably kills a wave if the Forte Heavy attack didn't. And then you're gonna swap into Lucy. You're gonna use her 2 skills, which do no damage, her basic attacks, which do no damage, her Forte skill, which does a little bit of damage, her Forte basic attacks, which do some okay damage, her Forte heavy attack, which will nuclear bomb like 2 waves, and then her ultimates, which is going to nuclear bomb 1 wave. So a grand total of like 5 waves per rotation maybe? This character in Whimpering Wastes, while it's workable, definitely is far from good. Her naturally lower damage ceiling compared to the WhiWa cast, combined with her big issue with consistency, means the only thing she actually has to show for herself is her AoE. And sure, this is better than nothing, because off-tune application, it still isn't exactly the greatest. She somehow still manages to perform better than I expected though. But if you're looking for a team for Whimpering Wastes, trust me, Lucy is not it. If you want to use that Rebecca, please just get an Augusta instead. It's gonna be way better for WhiWa. And then we're gonna get into her value in Matrix, which in my opinion is basically exclusively to clear out some earlier waves. Lucy has an inherent skill that will give her damage amplification and a damage multiplier buff to her hack whenever a boss is killed via direct damage. This would be something like an ultimate or a heavy attack, essentially anything that your character is directly doing to the enemy. So things like negative status will not trigger this effect. So Lucy's optimal scenario would definitely be when she's able to kill multiple bosses, which realistically you're only going to be able to do in the first round of Matrix, so that's definitely the best place to use your Lucy. I don't think Lucy is an amazing unit for Matrix, but because Rebecca is free and is her best teammate, you don't have to worry about teammate efficiency, unless you were planning on using Rebecca with a different main DPS, in which case, Lucy is most likely a better user of Rebecca anyway. For a third slot, she's also not particularly picky. While Mornia is definitely the best in slot here, it's not like she requires Mornia to be good. Mornia is a lot less of an upgrade to Lucy than she is to characters like Luke and Imeth, which I can in large part attribute to the fact that Lucy can't use the interfered marker, but that's beside the point. So overall, Lucy is not a horrible character if you're trying to maximize your Matrix score. Now please understand that this advice only applies if you already wanted Lucy in the first place. If you didn't want to get Lucy before watching this video, using her in Matrix is not an excuse to get her, because she's not worth the pulls for that. It's way better if you just get a modern DPS over Lucy, because Lucy, while she is a modern DPS, sure doesn't perform like one. So to summarize, if you already have a Lucy, cool, great, use her within Matrix. But if you don't already have her, this is not a reason to use your pulls on her, so don't get it twisted. And now we're gonna go past each of the points I made in my pros and cons video to see if I was right about her or not, starting with the fact that Lucy is cheap. This is definitely true, because Rebecca is free, Mornia doesn't really want her signature weapon in this team, and Lucy doesn't exactly need her signature weapon either. Mornia also isn't a requirement in the first place, so you can use a character like Shorekeeper and be fine. So while she is pretty cheap, I do think there's a caveat to this. If you're going for a cheap Lucy team, her performance is going to be really iffy. If you're not going to invest into your Lucy, don't expect this character to do much. Her ceiling already isn't the greatest, so it stands to reason that her floor also is not going to be the greatest. So make sure that you don't expect Lucy to be some kind of free-to-play demon. The second point I made is that Lucy was going to be efficient for Matrix because of her inherent skill, allowing her to clean up the early bosses, which means your later teams don't have to worry about running into resistance. And while it is true, it's kind of a really minor aspect of the character. I just genuinely couldn't come up with any other good things about her. Then for the cons, I said that she had very low damage potential, which it's kind of a not very true statement in a vacuum, but when you compare her to the rest of WhiWa, she's definitely in the lower ballpark. I'd equate her performance to a Luke Herson before Denia came out. It'll get the job done, but it's nothing impressive. Then I also said she was going to be bad for WhiWa, which, I mean, I was sorta wrong about. She definitely isn't good within WhiWa, but I expected her to be way worse. So honestly, I'll say I was wrong on this one, I'll give it to you. And then the final point I made was the fact that Lucy cannot use the interfered marker. To me, this just felt like a very needless way to make Lucy worse that she didn't really need. Giving her access to interfered marker wouldn't have broken the game or anything, so I really don't understand why she didn't get access to it. But ultimately, I'm not sure if I can say if it's really a valid con for the character, because it feels like Lucy was designed around her fact to not be able to use the interfered marker, and her inability to use the interfered marker also means she's a lot less reliant on Mornia than a character like Toon Rupture Imouth or Luke is. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think of Lucy down in the comments below. And while you're down there, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, be sure to join my Discord server, which is linked in the description below. But that'll be all from me. Peace.